Building a bike from spare parts around the garage is pretty fun. So I decided to build this one because there's a local retro mountain bike ride coming up. I may have also challenged everyone to bring a rigid bike to that ride. But as I said, building a project bike is good fun. Now this one, I thought it was going to be fairly straightforward. How does this work? And I've done it before without any dramas. My shifters now don't work either. But look, at the end, I ended up with a pretty cool ride. So let's go back to the beginning and let me show you what I'm working with. So first things first is this frame. I have a giant iguana. You've probably seen this frame on one of the mini velo videos, but I've decided now to use it for a mountain bike trails or mountain bike. The main reason is because it's kind of scuffed and scraped already. I'm not too fussed if it does get thrown down a trail or breaks even, hopefully not, but you know, I won't be too gutted if it's damaged. The other reason why I like it is pretty beefy. It has this external budding. You can see how the frame tubes get thicker over here. And then I have a pretty fat, chunky forks with plenty of clearance for the big tires. Same deal at the back with the big confidence-inspiring dropouts. So I'm hoping this frame is going to hold up, no dramas. It is a 90s frame, but it is pretty chunky and pretty burly. Speaking of tires, I'm going with these big Kenda 2.4s. They should give me plenty of cushioning and kind of help a little bit with, you know, absorbing the bumps and stuff. However, I'm also going with road bike cranks. I decided to go with a set of these. Yeah, it should work. It should work. And then kind of selection of parts that I had around the garage. I still haven't decided what kind of stem I'm going with. That'll be kind of preference on the fit. Same deal for the saddles. That's kind of preference on the look. And then the wheels, nothing special, but I'll show you those in more detail when we start with it. But first things first, let's check this frame out, grease it up and set it up, and let's start putting parts on it. First thing I'll do is take off this cantilever bracket. I'm gonna use the V-brakes on this bike, so I don't need this. Tidies up the look, but also let's inspect and see what this head bearing looks like. They spin fine, there's no real issues, but it kind of feels like it needs grease, so I'm just gonna quickly grease them up. The other thing I wanted to check is to see if the threads are damaged, because it runs these rings with a little kind of thing that goes into this groove, but they look in a good condition, so that's a bonus. Alright, let's put some grease in there. I'm just gonna pack up some grease. Gonna put some grease at the bottom. Same deal at the top. That'll do. Yep, straight away it feels a bit better. Now, because I have taken out this bracket, which has a thickness to it, before I put this thing on, I'll need to put additional spacer in here. But I also just realized that this thing is a double lock, which has this wire on the inside. Don't know if you can see it. So there's a wire on the inside of this, and then these little screws that you kind of push the wire and then locks onto the threads. Interesting. I haven't seen this before, but yeah, okay. Let me find the spacer. All right, all done. I'm not quite sure if this lock is really going to do anything, but yeah, we'll leave it. Now, next thing I'll do is try and polish up this frame a little bit. As I said, it has a fair few scratches, but I'm going to give it a go and see if I can polish it up. And then same deal, just clean up some of these, like this little protector thing that's not doing anything anymore, and then just try and tidy up this frame. Overall, it seems okay, but I'll give it a quick polish. Now, if you like this sort of video, make sure you subscribe. I do all kinds of bike refurbs, bike flips, community rides, and just showing off what kind of bikes other people have. So yeah, there's plenty more videos to come, and there's a whole bunch of videos you can check out on my channel, so subscribe. Alright, the frame is done and yeah, it's marginally better. It's a little bit shinier, I'll give it that. But you know, these scrapes and scuffs still remained on it. Yeah, I like this color. Pretty funky. Made it a little bit shinier. Tidied up a couple of these bits that were a bit kind of gross. But overall, yep, looks pretty much the same. It'll look pretty cool on the Instagram, put it that way. Okay, let's start putting parts on it. First things first, bottom bracket. Next thing, let's fit the crank arms. So I have these FSA ones. The range is 30 to 52 tooth, 3-speed. So, you know, it should work. But the main reason why I picked them is because I like the color and also they fit on this bike. So I should have plenty of clearance, but I'll show you what I mean as soon as I fit them on. Rightio, let's fit the back wheel and check that chain clearance or chain line. Now, my reasoning for using the rod cranks and why I'm comfortable with using them is the fact that this is a rigid frame. I'm not going to be doing massive jumps or probably any jumps on this bike. So I'm kind of comfortable that these cranks will be fine. There won't be any issue in using them. I mean, some of the roadies have massive legs and they can probably put a more voltage than I will ever put the pressure on these cranks, so should be fine. But I'll let you know after the ride. Alright, let's check the chain line. And the chain line is spot on. Like I am literally smack in the middle of the cassette. And yeah, I'm happy about that. That was another reason why I decided to go with these cranks, because they fit perfectly well in this kind of combo. And another thing I want to do on a mountain bike, when you ride the rough trails on these old rigids, it's actually a good idea to run on a highest cog, because then your chain has the most amount of kind of clearance from the slap and it's most taut. So hopefully that'll stop the dropping of the chain, I guess, on the trail, but we'll find out that too. Now, before I put more parts on the bike, I will need to do some refurb. So what I have with the brakes is this set of Avids that are in a reasonable condition but need a bit of a polish. So I'll sort out those and then fit them. This set, however, is a lot more corroded and so on. So I'm gonna sand it down and same deal, give it a bit of a polish, make it kind of look scuffy and rough. Scuffy, is that a word? Anyhow, we're gonna sort out the brakes. The derailleur is in a good condition. Don't have to touch that one. I'm pretty sure I've already gone through this one sometime in the past. However, the front derailleur will need a bit of a tidy up. It's too ugly. Might give it a little bit of paint. This is all crusty and rusty. It is an Altus, their basic setup. But the problem I had is that I needed a top pull. So what I have here is the cable will come from the top and then down to the front derailleur. And then I needed to have this mechanism work with the top pull. So that's the one that I have, unfortunately, even though it's an ugly one, but I'm pretty sure with a bit of a tidy up I can make it work. And then I'm gonna have to deal with the levers. I like these ones because they're tidy. These ones are also Altus. However, the shifters are the ones I want to use. So I'm gonna take the shifters of these ones and fit them on those, and hopefully they'll all work. The rest of the components are fine. I might just kind of finish off the handlebars and scuff them up a bit so they match the levers, but I'll play with that. All right, let me tidy it up first and I'll show you what it looks like. And while I'm doing this, can you guys let me know what's your mountain bike scene like? We have a fairly active retro mountain bike group over here, and it's really cool to see all kinds of bikes, all kinds of people, from collectors to just first timers and just figuring it all out. Do you have a scene like that at your neck of woods? Are you mostly just a solo rider? Please let me know in the comments below. Rightio, so we sorted all the parts now. Front derailleur ended up looking pretty decent. Tidied up nicely, got rid of most of the rust. It still has a bit of this kind of crusty look to it, but I think it'll work well with just the overall theme. The brake calipers have polished up okay-ish. Go on. So the idea was to just give them a bit of a refurb and kind of leave this logo alone. That's pretty much what I wanted to do. And then just kind of a bit of auto sole, bit of polish, and they sort of look alright. Again, I'm going for that whole kind of scuffed theme. The rears ended up polishing up alright. Brake levers are ready with the shifters. I hope I've kind of rotated the shifters the correct way. I'm sort of getting lost which way they're supposed to be facing. And then the handlebars, same deal. They got a bit of a scuff to them. Now these ones I picked up from some Verge pickup bike. I think it was like Specialized or something. It had a whole bunch of logos which were peeling and I just could not wipe them off. And yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going with. Let's start putting them back on the bike. So now the railer is adjusted, so the disc cog is lining up with the inside, and then same deal on this side. Now before I fit the brake pads, I'm gonna true the wheels. So the rear has a little bit of a wobble. As you can see, there's a bit of a wobble to it, so I'm just gonna quickly chuck it on the stand there and true it. Same deal with the front, just gonna see how it goes, but that's the boring part. I'll let you know afterwards. The wheels are as, you know, true as they're gonna get. I'm still learning how to, you know, do the whole adjusting or truing the wheels. Let's put the brakes on. Cool. So the front brakes are on, and now let's go and put the handlebars. So the plan is to use these pike, it's called big pike stem. Now I'm not sure if it's going to be aggressive or too aggressive rather, because it is kind of negative angle. But yeah, I'm going to put it on and then figure it out. If I need to, I could easily change it. So what we do is just going to put the quill stem converter, and then we need a couple of more spaces just to tidy up the bottom, and then slide the whole thing in there. There's plenty of grease inside, not to worry about it, but yeah, that's pretty much the look. And this is where we ended up with the handlebars. Big wide bars, bit of a kind of scuffed look and all that, and all the cables are now cut to length. I decided to go with the neutral, just stick with the black. Yeah, give myself enough room so I can play around with the different handlebar setups, but just a plain old black, and that way I can also play around with the different colors and kind of setups. So let me put the cables in, and then it's time to put some finishing touches. You know what I just realized? I made a major blunder. I didn't check my brake levers at all. And these are for cantilevers, which means there's just not enough power to be used with the V-brakes and just does not work. Now the problem with these is they're integrated ones with the shifters, which means my shifters now don't work either. So my solution is go back to the ye old faithful friction shifters, and then just find any pair of levers that will work with the V-brakes and call it a day. Let me show you what I have. So what we're going to use are these Shimano friction shifters. Not sure where they came from, but they're in a good condition, universal. You can kind of flick it on one side or another, so they will work under the bars or above the bars. I haven't quite decided yet. And then I have this new set of Avid brakes. I think they are. There may be a copy of some sort. Yep, so that'll work. But yeah, the main issue we have with these is that this distance from where the cable is to the pivot point is longer on the V-brakes, And then on the cantilevers, that distance is a lot shorter and you just don't have enough pull. So the whole, yeah, the pull length and all that voodoo of physics doesn't work. So let me swap these around quickly and then continue putting the cables on. Phew, it works now. So the rear brake is braking. I need to adjust the calipers and all that. The friction shifter works perfectly, shifts all the gears. You can see it, shifts all the way to the end, and then same deal at the front. I get a full range in here. It's just a little bit less precise, but it'll be fine for the trails that I'm riding on. I'm obviously missing something, the chain. Let's put that on and then let's put the finishing touches. Yeah, this is a way too long chain. How does this work? Alright. Righto, so a couple of issues I've run in with the chain. Because I'm using the road cranks, and it has quite a large 52 tooth. Am I 52? Yes, 52 tooth outside sprocket. But then I also have a mountain bike cassette in here, which has also quite a wide range. If I go highest to highest cog and measure the chain like you would normally, so you go biggest to biggest, bypass the derailleur plus 2 links, it ends up being way too long. So I'm going to either get rid of the outside chainring or simply measure to the inside and not use the outside one. I might even take it off and just put like a bash plate if I can find one. The other issue that I've run into is the chain line. So what's happening is the top of the chain seems to be lining up okay, but the bottom is out of whack, which means I should probably check the derailleur bracket or derailleur hanger and make sure that it's not bent. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remeasure the chain, but measure it off the middle chain ring, and then hopefully that'll give me the length. And then also just inspect and double check that hanger, and then hopefully it should work, but I'll let you know in a second. To check whether this thing is bent, I use this tool. It's a cheap one from AliExpress, but does the job. But if you don't have the tool like this, a pro tip is that the axle diameter, or rather the thread on the axle, matches perfectly to this. So if you have a spare wheel, or even if you just take the front wheel and you screw it in here, and it will give you the idea of whether this thing is bent, and it will show you which way. So if it's bent that way, or even twisted this way, and then you can use the leverage of the whole wheel to straighten it. So there's a cool tip for you, but I do have a proper tool, so I'll use that. All right, so I measured to the rim, and then it's showing me straight away I am out of whack by about this much over here. So I'm twisted that way, and then at the bottom I'm about a half a centimeter. And on this side I'm not even touching, so this thing is bent. Rightio, so if I check it at the top on this side, yep, and at the bottom now I'm straight. So what happened with this, it was bent that way. So let's see if that works. Alrighty, so it's all adjusted now. Now when I'm on the highest, on the middle chainring and the highest at the back, that's the amount of tension I have on the derailleur, which is fine. And then the chain line looks good. And then if I shift it all the way down, this is what I look like when it's shifted all the way down. So the chain line is a bit nicer now. Not ideal, but it's not too bad. Nothing is catching. It seems to be spinning smoothly. Problem is now I am not using the outside chainring. It's too much, it's too big. I'm gonna treat it like a bash plate pretty much until I find something better. I do like the look of it, so I'm gonna leave it. It works well with the rear cassette, so I'm happy with this setup. Now, the fun stuff. All right, let's fit some tires. And the tires are on. I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving this look. I will take some better footage and photos outside so you can kind of check it out in the proper daylight, not in a garage. But I have a couple of decisions still to make. The grips, Unfortunately, with the grips, I'm gonna have to go with whatever I have. I have a kind of set of PT ones, but they're black with a bit of silver matching the pedals. I'll go with that. The whole cockpit situation I might have to tweak later on anyway. But the saddle, I have a couple of these Brooks ones. One is the black one. Now this black one sort of works because it's a black seat post, black, you know, it kind of ties it in, and then the tan walls are a standalone thing. Or I have this honey colored one, sort of brownie. It's not quite the same as the tires, but I don't think it looks that bad. I'm really leaning towards that. The problem will be the grips will be black, and I'm gonna go with this one. I think it looks fine. But I'm gonna continue to tweak and play with this bike in general. This saddle is also a little bit wider than the black one, so I'm gonna ride it, do a bit of a shakedown, see what it feels like, and then continue to tweak and adjust. Let me button it up, and let's have a look at the final shots.
Writing in the margins of my mind all day, sipping herbal in the morning just to feel okay. Had a dream I was water just flowing through space, till I landed on the record that my grandma would play. Talk sweet like jazz in the park after rain. What the grass smell green and the air feels sane. Put the phone on mute, let the silence explain. I don't need much, just a book in the brain. Used to chase things that were run from me. Now I sit still, let the peace come free. Paint a verse in the sky with a loose leaf.